Welcome to Istanbul, ladies and gents. This is a fantastic city for boating. So we're just cruising along at moderate cruising speeds. During this test, we're going to feel the boat's manoeuvrability. We're going to feel her through different speed ranges, and I'm going to talk to you about the RPM and fuel flow when I am not distracted by these beautiful views which you're about to see coming up on the camera. These are actually the islands of Istanbul, a beautiful summer location. I'm sure it's nice all year round, and I'm told they only do electric cars for transport on the island. Anyway, we're getting distracted. So we're coming through at 26 and 27 knots at 4,600 RPM. I did put a request into the weather gods for wind and waves today, but they didn't agree, and they just gave us beautiful sunshine and essentially perfect summer conditions. So we've got what we've got. But 4,500 RPM, I'm running at 400 to 4,700 RPM is the speed range I was playing with just then. And I'm seeing a speed return of about 26 knots SOG. And if I touch 4,700 to 4,800, I can see 27. That's giving me a fuel flow of around about 75 litres per motor. And we're consuming a little bit more on the center engine. So she's a big, comfortable, luxurious boat. Just remember that. I think the thought process that you need to be applying to this platform is that it's a massive yacht. You can take a lot of people on this thing should you desire. So the whole platform is ultra capable for taking, in my opinion, with these high gunnels and this flare on the bow and the weight behind her, for taking out the ocean and bashing through some waves. I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that today. But the manoeuvrability is going to be more akin to a larger vessel. So don't go comparing this to the 38s. Sunfinder or Wayfinder, for example, which will be more sprightly than something like this, because we are a very large, capable vessel and a huge platform. So coming through at 30 knots right now, 4,700 to 4,800 RPM, and we're just going to increase that speed as we come through the turn. We'll do a wide open throttle at the end of this. I'm just banking in at a sensible angle. I can see at this level of bank, I've got full visibility, sitting down and driving, actually quite comfortable. And if I want to increase the level of bank from the seated position, I can still see, but from the standing position, I might lose a little bit of that viz. In general, your ability to have situational awareness on this thing is incredible, because look around us. You can see everything. You've just got a pillar there and there. So this is not a boat that's going to put you into some uncomfortable situations. I'm doing these turns now, banking through at 31 to 32 knots SOG, and just feel the maneuverability. So if you did have an object or a vessel that you needed to clear, I'm now running at 5,100 to 5,200 RPM, and I'm consuming about 100 litres per motor there. When I say about, it's because my center engine is using a bit more, and this is the first hull. So they will be playing with different engine height settings, and they will also be playing with different props. So I imagine in 6 months' time, we're actually going to see different numbers throughout the speed range. So let's just now, we can see 27 knots is a medium cruise. I can definitely see at 5,200 RPM, 35 knots, which is what we're doing right now, is pretty much a comfortable fast cruise. But let's just give it full wide open throttle, and then we shall feel what this thing feels like at wide open. We have full fuel today. Right now, we literally just came from the petrol station, so we have 1,600 litres of fuel on board, so heavy load. We've got equipment and 4 people on board, because we're actually staying out for the night because we're going to have some fun and film a video for you guys. So I don't expect full speed capability at the moment, but I'm doing 39 knots and climbing. I've just raised the trim a little bit. I see 40 knots, 5,900, 6,000 RPM. Engine levels, noise levels feel quite muffled due to the sun lounge out the back. And to be honest, 40 knots from this elevated position feels like 30 knots on some other boats. We're only jumped up the fuel consumption to 125 aside. I was expecting more than that. So remember, we are an air step hull, so that's going to be giving us some efficiency through that rev range. And let's now just reduce that speed. So holding a conversation is going to be fine. Transiting at speed is not going to be intrusive. I'm just playing with my engine trims just to see how that affects the performance. And I've got the zip wakes on auto. I would suggest you just leave the zip wakes on auto on this boat. And you may have also noticed I've set it into single lever mode, which I think on a triple engine boat, super social platform like this is, I would enjoy having less work to do, which is what that will achieve for you. So I think the concept of being able to turn around and have a yap with my mates back there, or see how my friends are doing in the bow, I would absolutely run with people in the bow on this boat in many conditions. Not an outgoing tide, incoming sea at a going out into the ocean, but in many conditions, absolutely. Here in the Mediterranean, also in Miami, I see that as no problems. This would also be a good Thailand boat. So I'm just coming off the plane there, going into displacement mode. So we saw fuel flow ranging from 70 to 100 to 125 at the different speeds. And I'm just in displacement mode now. She doesn't feel very efficient at 11, 12 knots. She's hanging her bum a little bit there. So I would actually just lower that speed. And okay, 10 knots starts to feel a bit more natural. We've settled the bow a bit, and then that could potentially be quite social if you're just wanting to potter around and socialize with your friends. 9 knots feels even better, to be honest, and we've really dissipated a lot of that wash behind us. 9.5 knots, and we see a fuel flow. Now we're now looking at 18 litres per motor, so we've really dropped through the floor there. Super comfortable. And then if we were going into a no wash zone, I think you would need to drop it below that 9.5 knots. Let's just have a look and see what we achieve at 7.5. So my RPM is down in the 1,600 RPM. Noise levels are just gone. You know, you could just have a chit chat without raising your voice whatsoever. You're hardly going to notice the motors now. Okay, still just acceptable. You might piss someone off at 7.5. Let's just have a look at 7 to 6.5. There it is. Okay, so 6.5 knots to 7 knots is your no wash speed, non-offensive and perfectly social. So I think what we just saw there, it's definitely a comfortable slow cruise up to about that 9.5 knots. We can get on the plane and cruise in the low 20s, but I would probably be more comfortable cruising in the 27 to 29 knots. Felt pretty good for this boat. And then your fast cruise is around about that 31 to 32 knots, and then 35 to 40 knots fully loaded is when we're getting up to the wide open throttle. If we were not fully loaded, because the factory have done this, you can not nudge up to 50 knots, but that's going to be light ship, clean bottom conditions. So it'll be interesting to see what they can achieve once they've played around with some of the different prop selections or prop options. But I just want to stress the point, if you're going to move into a boat of this caliber, it's very likely that you have come out of a potentially a multi-level, flybridge motor yacht running diesel shafts or IPSs, or maybe you're coming up from another expansive luxury day boat. I personally don't look at something in this size as all about speed. I would be looking at a boat like this as an incredibly luxury and comfortable day boat. I would personally care more about how comfortable is this platform for transiting from island A to island B? And if I've got to go through some waves in between those islands, because I'm just planning a super awesome day with my friends, I would like them to be comfortable. It's kind of simple, isn't it? And from what I gather on this hull form and the flare at the front, you are going to achieve that. So if you just settle into your sensible cruising speeds, people could potentially walk around these decks at 29 knots, hold on to your hat if you do, and just have a good time. And that's the idea. So for that mission, it absolutely bosses it. So I think from here, we're gonna go to another location and we're gonna test deploying the anchor. And then I think we'll have to find somewhere else where I can do some close quarters maneuvering for you, because we're going to show you where we stow the fenders and the lines, how we're going to manage the boat, because you're going to need to think about, where do I chuck all my friends when I move into docking mode as opposed to transit mode, because you probably will, from time to time, have up to 12 people on this thing. So that's a lot of people to manage. And so there, I think you just need to be thinking about people management, including boat management. Hopefully that makes sense, and we'll just demo it in the next bit. See you there. All right, we are hoisting the anchor. Just to give you a inside perspective, this is the contraption that actually deploys the bow roller. So you can see it extends when it's deployed and retracts when the anchor comes up. So we'll show you that when it comes all the way up. So we've laid out quite a bit of chain, and we're just checking the vertical drop, because we put so much chain out. So there we go. You can just reach down through that there if you put heaps of chain out. You shouldn't have this problem if you're just putting a little bit, but because we rafted up with 3 boats, we're just paying attention to it because of the vertical drop, and the design of this system just allows a limited amount of drop. So if you are going to be putting the whole chain out, like we did, we put a stack of chain out to play it safe with 3 boats, factor that in. All right, anchor's coming up backwards and it rights itself. And there you go, you can see the system retracts like so. So by the looks of it, the rollers are designed in such a way to right the anchor, because as we just saw then, it came up backwards. Cool. All right, we're gonna move from here and we're gonna do a little bit of docking at the hotel dock where we just had breakfast, if you saw in our vlog, and we'll just show you how she behaves alongside. All right guys, we've positioned the boat somewhere with a reference point for you, a dock where we actually have just had a lovely breakfast, so check that out on the vlog, also on the channel if you wish to see it. First things first, I'm just gonna do transverse thrust with engines forward and reverse, and I'm just gonna see how the boat responds whilst the seagulls attack my drone. So we'll see if this works. It's classic, so funny. So yeah, I've just got the engine centered. I've got starboard forward, port reverse. I have the bow thruster on. I'm not utilizing it at the moment. I'm just feeling the momentum of the vessel. We have a fair amount of beam. So the outside engines are doing the working at the moment. I'm flying the drone whilst showing you this, so I might just have to adjust that angle, and that is responsive. And if I want to increase my rate of turn, I will just do it, and that's totally fine. But we also have the joystick, so I'll try and do a better job of that because I'm a terrible multitasker. We also have the joystick. Before I get there, I'm just going to introduce some bow thruster. I'm going to slow my rate of turn now. Remember, she's a big, heavy boat, so momentum is going to carry on. Don't just stop the movements in the position you think you're going to be, because it will keep going. Now, if I introduce thruster and I've got wheels down, remember on this design of boat, you can't see the engine. So if you are not sure about your directional stability or the direction of your engines, you have a rudder angle indicator on the autopilot, which is standard on these boats because of the Mercury. So what I'm going to do is press Skyhook here, which is another very sensible feature for a designer boat like this. So here I am. I'm going to reposition the drone to give you a better shot. I'm now close to the dock, but far enough away for to allow for some wriggle room with the Skyhook. It's not going to be millimeter accurate, but that now allows for some wriggle room. So if you needed to buy time, for example, popping the fenders up, preparing your lines, which are below decks, or securing, popping the cleats up is what I meant to say, or securing fenders in the right position, you can buy yourself some time, and you can also prepare your guests. So if you've got non-boating friends, I'm going to sit them up there, or I'm going to sit them there, or I'm going to put them on the sun lounge, and I'm going to leave this walkway free, and I'm going to leave this area free, because then that's going to make my life a lot more relaxing for completing this procedure. And then probably, because we have the joystick, you can, unless you've got good hand-eye control for the thruster and the throttles, and to do the wheel down and wheel back the other way, which can get a little bit tricky and confusing, I would suggest just do it with the joystick. The reason it's going to be totally fine on a boat like this, width and momentum is going to be our friend. When you use these joystick systems on lighter boats, they can move a little bit too quick for my liking, and so they can get a little bit uncomfortable. So here we are. I'm just going to be sliding the boat in. I'm not rushing. There's no rush. And once the boat's moving, I'm actually just going to allow momentum to continue to carry me in. We're not actually parking. We're just doing a simulation. So almost like a touch and go here. I just want you to have a bit of a reference point against a fixed object. But I'm doing little maneuvers on the joystick to control the direction of the bow. And if I was in a position, for example, where the wind was catching my bow, which it could on a big boat like this, I can just tickle it up on the bow thruster. And I do suggest ordering a bow thruster on a vessel of this length. The other thing, if you need to have better visibility aft, this is where the joystick comes in handy, because you can just swivel your body and continue to do the same joystick movements, and it's not going to be mentally confusing. So that's where I suggest it's going to help you a little bit. So we'll just push it a little bit more towards the dock. We don't need to go too much further. We've got our fenders out, and I'll just stop the boat relatively close to the dock. And I try to, whenever I'm using these joystick systems, I try to bring it back to the center line, nice and gentle. And I don't do big, crazy, fast movements. There you go. So we've got good control here. Because it's still a mechanical device. We still have engines that need to go in gear and out of gear, even though the joystick feels like a PlayStation. It's not. Okay, so just remember that. So just nice, steady movement one way or the other, and bringing back to the center is going to give you the best control. But see how the boat's pretty much, we don't have any wind, admittedly, but we have got a little bit of swell. It's pretty much just consistent and staying here in a steady manner. I'm now going to oscillate the boat away from the dock, and it's doing that in a predictable manner because it's big and relatively heavy. Compared to, say, something of the 40-foot and under length, where you're going to notice the environment overtaking the vessel a lot quicker. Whereas something like this, particularly with open sides, it's just the hull that has the windage. We don't really have any windage effect from the cabin top because it's a completely open style boat. So just one final maneuver. I'm just going to spin it as if I was backing up and picking up friends at a dock. Let's just do that. Spin it in here. I can't believe those seagulls, they haven't actually taken me drone yet. That's a positive outcome. Don't feel like losing a drone today. And see now my sight lines to the stern with the platform in the level position are absolutely perfect. So I can now have really, really good control on visibility aft and just settle the boat. And once again, if I lost control or concentration, I would just press Skyhook. Boom, boom. I'll just give you another view of that. And the Skyhook will take over for me, buy me time, everything can settle down. So if you've got too much movement from the environment or whatever's happening, that's just the time buyer for you. And then you can disengage and back the boat up on the dock as you see fit. And that's it. So yeah, a bit of practice, no problems maneuvering this boat short-handed or single-handed if you were confident enough and assessed the docks and the anchorages and the mooring locations that you're going to be operating in and amongst. I don't see any dramas in running this thing predominantly by yourself. So that's all good. And we will take it from here onto the next location. Okay guys, I filmed a closing scene for the sea trial, but I'm now actually doing it again, hence the change of shirt, because it's a different day. We've just had an opportunity to drive this boat in waves because we took it to the Black Sea. Not on the sea trial, that's in our vlog. You'll have to check that out in the video description if you want to see us exploring Istanbul. But it was a great opportunity to take advantage of. I get a really good feeling for hull forms because I get to drive so many hulls. I don't always, and you guys let me know in the comments every time, I don't always get to drive them in waves because Mother Nature is, I'm not the boss. So Mother Nature decides when I get that opportunity. So I generally just have to use my intuition, and I have a pretty good intuition because I've got well over 1,000 hulls under my belt in all sorts of different conditions in all sorts of places around the world. So I have a good sense for this hydrodynamics of this platform. But driving it in waves just proves it, to be honest. And we've just done that, and I'll be cutting to the B-roll for you to appreciate that right now. Powering through oncoming swells, short wave period at 27 to 31 knots, and the boat's just powerful. It's displacing the wash as it should, and it's confidence inspiring. So if you need to exit a bar, if you need to cross some open water, if you need to tackle some less than perfect conditions, you're gonna be able to do it on this boat. So that's that. How is she to drive? She is a big boat. She is a yacht. Don't think of her as a little small sprightly thing. It is much more akin to a larger high capacity vessel, and it behaves like that. So her momentum carries her. You want to be completing your maneuvers before you get there, because the boat will keep going if you just try and stop straight away, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Accelerating up through the rev range, she really comes alive at about 24 knots. Not much is happening before then, but once you hit that 24 knots to 27 knots to 29 to 31, you've got a wonderful speed range to play with, depending on the fuel flow you would like to sit at, and you can calculate that with the range that you need for the day. Definitely 40 knots fully loaded, and well over that, as the factory have proved light ship mode. So they've nudged 50 knots at a full light ship. But I think realistically, loaded with people, you're going to be seeing in those 40s numbers. In terms of logistics for solo or short-handed operation, it is still a big boat. It does have the high sides, which I love from a safety perspective, from a walking around and clearly entertainment. But you will need to factor in as to whether you have the skill set or the marina berth to manage it by yourself. The technology is there with the bow thruster, with the joystick, with the Skyhook. We can do it all. I would like to see, and I've told the factory, a couple more fender anchoring points, particularly down aft, just to make your life a little bit easy. That's a super simple fix, so I'm sure that'll be done next time I'm back in Turkey. But if you are wanting to operate this boat by yourself and entertain with 12 of your closest friends and let them enjoy the day, it's perfectly possible. You just need to make sure you have your wits about you and you've had the correct training and education on this vessel. But if that is your goal, if that is your desire, yes, you can do it. You can absolutely do it on this boat. It's a platform for summer Mediterranean fun. That's her stated goal in the name, Sunfinder. It certainly meets that need, without a doubt. So, yeah, that's what I got to say. What would you compare it to? I think if any of you are sort of, I know a lot of you are shopping for the D'Antonio, for example, right now, and maybe that's a comparison. I would say on the capacity wise, I can understand that thought process, but on the hull form, this thing eats it up. It's like way better than a D'Antonio for going through rough water. Okay, so if you don't need to go through rough water, then that's fine. So you just use this information as you wish. There's many other luxury Mediterranean style day boats in this category. Obviously, make sure you're looking at around about the 50 feet, which are going to offer this space and capacity. I think where this boat stands out on her own a little bit is going to be that flared bow, rough water ride, which should equal higher cruising speeds in from getting from A to B. So if you've got a bit of a cross sea and it's blown up a little bit, and ordinarily you wouldn't do that on another boat, I think your window or area of operations is going to be a little bit wider on this one, and you'll still be able to go. So hope that was useful. Jump in the comments. Feel free to agree or disagree or add some information. If you are in the process of buying one of these, or if you already have one of these and you've learnt something that we haven't learnt on this day today, feel free to pop it in the comments and help other blokes out, because that's what we're doing. This is a community, and I really appreciate your input as long as it's genuine, which actually 99% of it is. So thanks very much for that. And how cool's Istanbul? If you want to check out this place, we've just filmed a vlog. We've actually stayed on board. This is end of day 2. We stayed the night on the boat. So if you want to get a little bit of insight into that, just look up the vlog on the channel description, and we'll see you there. Thanks, legends. See you soon.